Well, I hope you are able to see the PPT and me both.
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday we have started with Bakar and we have discussed the few Bakars, how Bakar is an important source of history in spite of certain shortcomings. Now there is one more important source of Maratha history and that is Adhynyapatre. This is the published Adhynyapatre and this text which is originally written in the Modi script. Yesterday I have shown you Modi script and you can see the Modi script here also. Yeah, this is Modi script. You see the Marathi alphabets, they are written in a different form without lifting the pen. For example, uh, this is Sri Manman Mahaganpati Yanama, and the of course in the published form, the Marathi Devanagari script, the sentence in the Marathi Devanagari script is given here. So this is a Modi script. So it's originally written in Marathi, and this book, while publishing, it's given in the format like original Modi script is here, Devanagari Marathi is here, and at the end we also have the English translation of the complete text uh, here. So it's a as this has become this big because it came in the Modi, then Marathi, then English. Otherwise it is not a very big text. And who has written this and what does it tries to tell us, that we will discuss now. This is published by A.R. Kulkarni by Diamond Publisher and it's written in Modi Marathi. And lastly, there is a translation, English translation, which is done by Professor Punta Ambekar. This is done long back in 1929. We'll be discussing these three things: who is the author, what is the content, and how important it is for the source of history. The author of this book, Adhynyapatre, that is a latest giving order, is Ramchandra Panta Amatya. He is also known as Hukumat Pana. And he worked with three Chhatrapatis, Chhatrapati Shivaji, then Sambhaji, and then Rajaram also. And later on, after Rajaram, the Maratha Empire got divided into the two king. One was at Satara and one was at Kolhapur. So he joins Kolhapur and he remained in the service of Kolhapur Chhatrapati. Rajaram, the third Chhatrapati, Shivaji, and then Sambhaji, and then Rajaram, when he was attacked by Mughal at his capital Raigad, he took shelter in Jinji. And as Jinji is near Chennai, and as he was going away from Maharashtra, he gave the responsibility of conducting operation against the Mughal in Maharashtra to this person, Ramchandra Pant, and he gave him the title Hukumat Pana. Hukumat Pana is like another ruler. And this Ramchandra Pantamatya, he fulfilled his responsibility very well. He directed operation against the Mughal during those very critical time. Of course, that history we'll be studying. We will be studying it later on. I think that is in the fourth unit. And he mostly worked from the place called Vishalgarh. And among the Maratha nobility, there was some conflict, internal conflict, ego clashes, and the very famous ego clashes is the clashes between Dhanaji Jadhav and Santaji Ghorpade, two very important and capable cavalry commander of the Maratha army. And this Santaji, though very capable and very swift, was having a very short-tempered and very intolerant to indiscipline. And Ramchandra Panta Amatya or Hukumat Pana, he tried to resolve the differences between these two people. Of course, it could not be. Finally, Santaji was expelled from the Maratha Empire by Rajaram, and then he was murdered. Unfortunately, that was a very tragic end to this brave hero. Well, now, in Maratha history, there is a repetition of the name. For example, Shivaji had son Sambhaji, and Sambhaji's son was also known as Shivaji. There was one more, Sambhaji, like in Kolhapur. mm, that was actually Rajaram's descendant, and there was a person called Sambhaji who became Chhatrapati. And the Chhatrapati Sambhaji, that is the second Sambhaji, he ordered Ramchandra Panta Amatya to write Adhynyapatre. That means let us know, his intention was to know about how Chhatrapati Shivaji used to run his administration. So depending on his experience, Ramchandra Panta Amatya has believed to write this Adhynyapatre, which are like instructions given by Shivaji, orders given by Shivaji. But there is a bit controversy. Like, V.B. Kolte, one scholar, he says that author is probably not Ramchandra Panta Amatya, because how Ramchandra Panta Amatya as a historical character and the person who writes this book, their attitude does not match. And Jadunath Sarkar, he also says that the author is not contemporary of Shivaji. It is a text of much later date, and that is the reason it's not a very valuable source of Maratha history. But Shejwalkar, another Maratha historian, he believes that this is a text of Ramchandra Panta Amatya, and that is the reason it is considered as quite a valuable source of the Maratha history. Now, this text is having 9 chapters, and in short, I will tell you what each chapter contains. Is there anybody from Hindi medium? Probably nobody. Shraddha is not there. Okay. So, in case any Hindi medium student join, please let me know. So the first chapter, it gives information about Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji's policies and his achievement, and what was the state of the Maratha, what was the condition of the Maratha state at the time when Sambhaji becomes Chhatrapati after Shivaji. Then what was Sambhaji's policy, then Aurangzeb's invasion and the effect of his invasion. Chapter 2, it talks about the condition of kingdom at the time of Rajaram's time. What was the policy of Rajaram, his forts, his cavalry, infantry, and author here also talks about Rajaram later on becoming very strong militarily and crossing Narbada and invading northern India. The historical evidences does not support this. He tried to cross Narbada, but he was defeated by the Mughal army and had to turn back. But seems to be a bit of utilization. Then chapter third is a general principle of the state policy and organization. It elaborates how the king should function, what should be his routine, how the king is to be protected, what kind of entertainment he should have. Uh, uh, it advises the king to behave very properly. Like if the king goes on making jokes with everybody, all his courtier, then he will lose his dignity. People will not respect him. He should consult his minister about the financial policy, military policy. The text also talks about the different weapons, qualities, what kind of servants you should employ, where the qualities of servant, and how the prince is to be educated. Chapter 4 it talks about the administrative and minister policy of of the Maratha organization. What are the public function of the king? What is the importance of the minister? What should be their qualification? What should be the king's policy towards his minister? What are the different functions of the different minister, and how the relationship should between the king and the minister should be regulated. Then chapter 5 talks about the commercial policy, and here he understands the importance of merchant. He says merchants are ornament of the king. So what policy should be followed towards the merchant, like the ship merchant, who travel by ship, they tax should be imposed on them, but they should not be unnecessarily harassed. Then again, it talks about the character of the foreign European merchants and their political ambitions. Please remember that though Ramchandra Panta Amatya is writing, his main intention is to elaborate on the policies and the administration of Chhatrapati Shivaji. So what is reflected here, ideally speaking, from the perspective of many historians, is opinion of Chhatrapati Shivaji, because Ramchandra Panta Amatya has seen Chhatrapati Shivaji functioning, and based on his memory he writes all that record of his administrative structure. So there is a character of foreign European merchants and their political ambitions. So here Chhatrapati Shivaji says that these Britishers and the European, they are very tenacious. If the land comes to their hand, they will not leave the land, and probably they have a political ambition of conquering India or extending their empire. So probably if we believe that this is a word of Chhatrapati Shivaji, then Chhatrapati Shivaji has understood the ambitions of Britishers long back. What policy should be followed towards Vatandar, that is elaborated in chapter 6. Now, Vatandar used to be kind of hereditary zamindar who had the land of their influence, which is called Vatan. They are traditional right holder. The book talk about their characters. They are very greedy for land, and always they are looking for an opportunity to encroach on the land of existing the neighboring Vatandar, neighboring zamindar. They have their internal frauds. Within every Vatan, there is a conflict. Brother wants to succeed. They want to become Vatandar, brother and his children, and they fight among themselves. Now, this Vatandar, as they are more guided by their own self-interest and not by the general interest of the state, they have a tendency to join enemy. If for example, if in one Vatan, two brothers are fighting, who should be the Vatandar? And the invading enemy takes an advantage of that situation. They will say, ki, okay, we are going to win the war. One of the brothers join our hand, and we will give you, will sanction that Vatan to you. So they have a tendency to join enemy. And what policy the king should follow towards this Vatandar? Like it should be a balanced policy, but they should be strictly watched. A strict watch should be kept over their activities. Then there are hereditary vrittis and inam. It's very similar to Vatandar. People are having some hereditary rights over the land. They have traditional ownership of the land, and this land is not to be confiscated because people are having attachment to their land. And but no new vrittis and inam to be given. The land can be given for the religious purpose, but the person to whom the land for the religious purpose is given, that is to be selected very carefully. Then chapter 8, it talks about forts, its construction and organization. So what is the importance of forts? The forts are key to control the surrounding area, so that from forts further conquest can be made. Organization and administration of the forts, the Vatandar, surrounding to that area, there will be a land, there will be agriculture land, and there will be certain Vatandar who were hereditary tax collector and the administrator. So this Vatandar, if you are employing them in the same fort in their own area, then that is very risky, because once you have a fort in your hand, you are in a position to defend yourself for a longer period, and then you also have a land. Then you have Vatandar will have a tendency to become independent and not to listen to the king. So if the Vatandar is to be kept in service, he to be employed far away from his place, some other fort, and the area in his fort should be given in the hands of some other Kiledar. The garrison should be always active. There are instructions that the person who is holding the fort, he should keep the people active. There should be adequate provision for water, like in on Raigad, when that was selected for capital, the ponds were digged up so that the water can be stored there. There should not be, how the fort is to be selected. There should not be very high hill nearby. Even if there is a hill, that is to be flattened out, because enemy can attack with cannon on your fort by mounting his cannon on that hill. So there should not be hill nearby. It should be your only fort should be at the high place, so that you can have a very you can look around and look at a further distance if enemy is approaching to you. The officers on the fort should be transferred very frequently. And Chhatrapati Shivaji had a very strict instruction that after a particular time in the evening, once the door of the gates of the forts are closed, they are not to be open in any case. And it is believed that in one of the story that Shivaji wanted to test his own officers, and he went in the night to one fort. But the Kiledar, he said, ki no, as per Chhatrapati Shivaji's instruction, I am not supposed to open the fort. And Chhatrapati Shivaji said, I am Shivaji, I am instructing you to open the fort. But the fort in charge, he refused. He sent few of his men with blankets, and so that Chhatrapati Shivaji can be comfortable outside the fort. But he refused to open the door, and he is rewarded for his loyalty. He is rewarded for his strictness. And this book gives an instruction that if the in charge of the fort, the Kiledar, if he joins hands with enemy, then his children and wives, if they can be captured, they should be enslaved. That was a medieval period where the laws used to be a bit harsh. Then chapter 9, it talks about naval policy, how the ships are to be constructed, what are the different size of ships should be there in the navy, how the navy is to be organized, what should be the policy towards merchant ship? Like, merchant ships are not to be unnecessary molested, unnecessary. You should not trouble the merchants. But depending on their wealth and depending on their status, the merchants should be respected. But they should be nobody should be allowed to enter the water, the area of your influence in the sea without paying the taxes. Uh, Similarly, when the naval fleet is naval fleet during the season of monsoon, when the sea is troublesome, it cannot venture into the sea. In those cases, it has to be sheltered in the coastal area. So sheltering is to be done at the different places, and it serves two purposes. First thing is that if you shelter your navy, if you bring your navy every year during monsoon at one particular place, the enemy will know that you are bringing all your navy for shelter to this particular place every year, and probably he may try to do some harm to you. So if you change the place every year, that's better. And second thing is that whenever the huge military people like navy, they are part of navy people, whenever they go and stay at one particular place for a longer period, let us say during the monsoon of 4 months, they will definitely create some trouble for the civilian population. Like they will bring something from them and all that kind of stuff. So these kind of instructions are given so that no trouble, the population should not be trouble. Like, one of the later of Shivaji, that is given, of course, it is written by Ramchandra Pandamatya, but believed to be of Shivaji's instruction. Shivaji says that, Chhatrapati Shivaji says that the naval person should not snatch anything from the villager, and they should not cut tree that is planted by these villagers on their agriculture land, because these trees are brought up like own children. Even if we need wood for our own navy, then the old dead tree can be cut, that too after paying compensation for the owner of the tree. So Chhatrapati Shivaji was that very cautious person, and then he gives a lot of instruction. Like he says, okay, whenever there is a naval camp, the soldier should ensure that they are putting off the lamp while sleeping, because lamp, it used to have cotton wick and then oil, and if it is burning, it's quite possible that Chhatrapati Shivaji writes all these things, that the mice may just carry that burning wick, and the food and fodder that is kept in the store might just get burned because of the accidental fire. So, if you have to summarize this Adhyapatre, we can understand that it can be a very important source of history, but there is obviously certain kind of exaggeration here and there that we definitely find. So here, Adhyapatre is over. Today, I have a plan to take up another source of history, discuss about it. That is Shakabalis. But that class is scheduled at 12:30, so we'll start at 12:30. As of now, I'm closing it. You can also have a break, have a cup of tea, and then we can go ahead. Just a minute. We'll